from Nashville, Tennessee. It's the Three. And here's your host, Laura Harris-Smith.
Hi everybody, I'm Laura Harris-Smith and welcome to The Three. Today's show, I'm sitting with a good friend of mine, known him for a long time. He is a podcaster, he's a television personality, he's an author, he's a publishing executive, and when he gets through doing all of that, he goes home to his 10 kids. This guy does everything, and there's hardly anything he does not do, including being a man of God who chases after what the Holy Spirit wants for his life and trying to empower others to live theirs. Shaun Tabatt, no pressure, but that's a lot. Welcome to The Three.
I'm glad to be back.
You've been on, I think it was season 3 and 4, like we've done so much with you, and I just want to say that in the prayer that I was praying before, I meant every word that I said. You came into my life at a time, you were at Baker Publishing, you were my publicist, and in retrospect, I see you really helped shape who I was, what I was becoming, and you didn't do it with like this fist of authority or I think you should. You really were a cheerleader, and you did it in such a way that it gave me a real confidence, and I don't know if I've ever publicly said that to you in front of millions of people, so thank you. I really do appreciate it. Now our paths have, we've kind of gone in different directions, but I want to hear all about, first of all, before we get into the many other things that you're doing, I want to hear about the evolution of your podcast, Shaun Tabatt Show. That's what people mainly, used to know you for, and you've got how many episodes in the can now?
750, I think, at this point.
Mercy.
Yeah,
okay. Tell me when it started, and tell me where it is now.
Shaun Tabatt Show, that actually started when I was early on in my journey at Baker Publishing Group. Mm-hmm. And it really is just a vehicle for me to meet people, network, help authors get comfortable doing interviews. So it really was a tool to serve authors like yourself.
And we met there.
To help you get more comfortable doing interviews.
I'm never comfortable doing interviews, so no. But I remember then as we were discussing it, you said something about like, I'm up for a job, maybe at Chosen. And so I was like, well, I'm going to put in a call and put in a word. So again, we got to work together for those few years, and then you left, and now you're at Destiny Image. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, in terms of moving over to Destiny Image, I had been this marketing guy and this publicist, and so always working on that side of the industry. And then moving to Destiny Image, I get to do acquisitions. And so not only do I get to acquire new book projects, I get to acquire TV shows, podcasts, e-courses. And so it's kind of the whole broad spectrum of Christian media in terms of publishing is not just books anymore. It's all of those things. And so, it's kind of new ground in the publishing space.
It has to be, if you're going to survive everything. I did an episode early on, I believe it may have even been in season 1, about the evolution of media, really. And how back in the early 1900s, radio was everything. You gathered around the radio with your family, and you just stared at a box. And then came television, and they said, oh, radio's dead. Radio will never survive. So then comes the advent of, 24-hour cable television, and they said, oh, well, regular television is dead. And then came VCRs. And now nobody had to tune into anything in their time slot to see the sponsors and, commercials and who's paying the bills. You could just go out and rent your own video. Well, here comes the internet. And now they say TV's going to be dead. Meanwhile, radio's still around. And so you have to learn to straddle all the genres. And one of the things I love about Nori Media, correct? Is that you guys do it all. I mean, you literally try to have your hands in everything that God is doing. And I just love that about the company. Explain to us what Nori is, an umbrella for what?
Sure. So family founded and still run by the second generation. Started as Destiny Image, and then we acquired Harrison House probably about 4 years ago. And then we have another imprint called Sound Wisdom that's kind of business and personal development. So publishing, podcasting, and live streaming is kind of how we brand what we do. So TV, podcasting, books, e-courses, kind of all of that.
That is amazing.
I mean, and really it's about believing in your authors enough so you support all expressions of their message. So it's not just a book or an e-book or an audio book. It's being a part of all possible formats that we could get the message out there. So it's more of a full publishing package than, if you will, not just a book, which it's a new model of publishing.
I'm sitting here thinking about how your 10 kids are like a picture of your 10 jobs, or your 10 mediums with which you are in this world that is so multifaceted now. Like I said, you have to surf in all of them. You don't just have that podcast. You got another one now, Two Christian Dudes. Tell me all about that. I actually love the name.
Yeah, I think this is like my 4th or 5th podcast along the journey. No, I have a good friend, Randy Kay. I worked on him with 2 books, or worked with him on 2 books, and he said, hey, I want to start a podcast, but I want to do it with somebody else. And he's like, let's call it Two Christian Dudes. And we've done about, 20 or so episodes, and we've just focused on heaven stories and near-death experiences. Randy had his own near-death experience about 15 years ago. And as a guy who's been creating content for a decade, I was overwhelmed by the response. We get thousands and thousands of emails in response to these shows. People who will say, I watched this heaven story and I was suicidal and I found hope. Or I encountered the Lord, I got healed, you name it. And it's just, it was kind of a surprise, because like I've been making content forever, but I've never had so many testimonies of lives being dramatically transformed. And I'm literally just doing what I do, having conversations with people, and God's just anointed that. So I wasn't expecting to be the honorary NDE guy, but here I am.
Well, so then how does Two Christian Dudes differ from Shaun Tabatt?
The
Shaun Tabatt Show, I'm saying. So I know that the distinction is that you have to have had a near-death experience, but I'm saying you're still doing the Shaun Tabatt Show. Yeah,
I mean, the Shaun Tabatt Show is just broad interview format. It's not just charismatic content, it's evangelical, it's business leaders, it's kind of the shiny objects that I'm excited about. And so that's that's a way for me to meet people, bless people. I can make that whatever I want. And then the other show, it's me and Randy together, so we try to pick guests that are just going to be fun for him and me to talk to.
And so out of all of the near-death experiences that you've heard, and after the break, you can get into a couple of them, but you obviously are being put, right in front of people who are describing something that so many are skeptical about. I know we even say that, those 3 words, near-death experience, or people who've gone to heaven and come back, or died, gone to hell and come back. And I want you to try to think of a couple of stories that it's a defining moment. You either have to decide this is real or this is not. And like you said, there are people who've changed their lives and make decisions about eternity based on those testimonies. So when we come back from the break, I want you to just stay close, because you're not going to want to miss it. We're here with author, podcaster, television personality, father of 10, Shaun Tabatt. Be right back.
Hi, I'm Laura Harris-Smith, inventor of Quiet Brain Essential Oil Blend. You know, if you would have told me 2 years ago when I was mixing that very first little bottle that we would have thousands of customers from all over the world, and that we'd have to quadruple our staff to keep up with the demand produced by our international TV infomercial, I'm not sure I would have believed you. And if you told me I'd be hearing regular testimonies of improved sleep, reduced stress, migraine relief, even help with other neurological challenges like seizures, PTSD, tremors, muscle spasms, even anxiety, well, I probably would have cried. And sometimes when I'm reading a Quiet Brain testimony, I do. But if you would have told me 1 year ago when we introduced our Quiet Brain Variety Gift Box that it would become the biggest selling item on our online store at quietbrainoil.com, I would have said, I believe it. The reason is because I created the gift box to be the perfect combination of all of our Quiet Brain products. The oil itself for topical use on the skin that contains only certified pure oils that can cross the blood-brain barrier and bring speedy relief and neurological support. And our aromatherapy line with our Quiet Brain shampoo and conditioner, candles, inhalers, all of which use the nasal passages to gain direct access to the limbic brain, which is the emotional center of the brain. So whether you need to use Quiet Brain topically or aromatherapeutically, the Quiet Brain gift box has everything that you need. And now we've given our gift box an upgrade without increasing the price. It now comes with our satin Quiet Brain Sleep Eye Mask. Just put a few drops of oil on the nose guard and you're on your way to enjoying a good night's sleep. And it all comes packaged in a beautiful gift box and delivered to the destination of your choice or sent to you so you can use it for 7 different gifts or keep a few for yourself. When sold separately, the items in the box are $160, but you're getting it for $135. That's a $25 savings, meaning that you're getting the nasal inhaler and the shampoo and conditioner for free. The Quiet Brain gift box comes with 1 Whisper Quiet Nightlight diffuser with 16 color options and intermittent mist options, 1 dropper bottle of Quiet Brain, 1 Quiet Brain nasal inhaler, 1 Quiet Brain candle, the satin sleep eye mask, and your healing shampoo and conditioner. And remember, both are color safe, aloe enriched, paraben and sulfate free, loaded with wonderful ingredients like unscented coconut oil, olive oil, sugar beet betaine, and of course the Quiet Brain blend with its 8 essential oils like lavender, frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood, and more. We get repeated testimonies of both being used with great effectiveness during headaches for pain relief. So go to quietbrainoil.com to order. Quiet Brain is a great gift for any time of the year, but especially for seasons like these that bring additional stress. Give the gift of health and peace this year. Give the gift of Quiet Brain.
Hi everybody, I'm Laura. You're watching The Three. We're here with Shaun Tabatt, and before the break, I kind of gave a little bit of tease. We're talking about near-death experiences. It's just a part of, with one of the podcasts that you have, as you are interviewing people about these NDEs. Now, I once did an episode here based on an article that had come out in England scientists proved there's no afterlife. Okay, so what I did was I had a guest on the show who had died and gone to heaven and come back, and a guest who died and gone to hell and come back. So what do you do with that? So, I wanted you to just pick a couple of the stories, anything you want to tell us that really convinced you, because you were not doing this like a year, 2 years ago. So what convinced you? Who convinced you? And there's going to be somebody out there you're convincing.
It was Randy Kay who really convinced me in terms of wanting to talk to other people who had had heaven experiences. And we like the dynamic of bringing in me with 10 years of interview experience and him, a guy who actually had his own heaven encounter and near-death experience. And what we found is bringing Randy into the conversation, it brought their guard down. So they're like, okay, you understand me, you get me. And so the quality of what you get, bringing Randy into that conversation is different if it was me or you, just with somebody, because they don't feel like you fully understand their journey. So I blame Randy for the journey that we've been on. But I've just been enjoying getting to see the different nuances of each story. So two that really stick out to me. So Jim Woodford. Jim is actually our most successful guest in terms of that episode.
Listeners or?
In terms of like views, like 2.5 million views on the content. A book that was in obscurity has sold like 7,000 units in the last 7 months. Like right now it's doing like 500 units a week. So for a 5-year-old book, that's phenomenal. But from Jim's story, part of his journey in heaven is he sees a nursery in heaven where all the lost and aborted babies go, or people who lose children. And so I think that's why people really connected with his story.
Of course,
so he really speaks to mothers and fathers who've lost children. But there's another gentleman, Ivan Tuttle. In his encounter, he actually goes to hell first, and before he ends up going to heaven, which it's pretty typical. People kind of enter in, either they go to hell and they call out to Jesus, or they're in this kind of in-between space.
I've interviewed
they
someone
usually
like that,
see angels and demons, and they call out to the Father or Jesus. Usually angels or Jesus will show up. But also in Ivan's journey, he sees, it wasn't a nursery in heaven as he described it, but people seeing their lost children, whether they died unexpectedly, so not necessarily even aborted children. But one of the unique things Ivan describes in his journey is the parents get to see the children grow up and what he encounters in heaven.
Oh my goodness,
so the parents get to experience those children growing up. So how do you explain that? I don't quite know. But so it's been fun to see some of these unique aspects in a person's story, but then to meet 2, 3, 4 people who's like, well, I saw this in heaven. And so it's been fun to kind of start to map out these, normalities. I don't know what word you want, whatever. So.
I don't even know how you're going to answer this question, but how many people does this happen to? I'm sure you don't have a number or percentage, but Are you surprised? Like, are they coming out of the woodworks, or?
They kind of are. I mean, like Randy legitimately gets like thousands of emails every month from people who encounter the different shows that we do.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, oh, I had a near-death experience. I've never told anybody about this, or.
Well, they think you're crazy.
Yeah, and so I mean, we've had probably 50-50. So half of the guests are people who have books and they've told their stories. You know, some of them thousands and thousands of times. We also have other people where their experience is pretty raw and new, where maybe it was 6 months ago or 12 months ago. And so it's been fun to get people who they're not polished, they're not coached, and just the rawness and realness of their story. It's different than somebody who shared that testimony thousands of times.
It's a unique form of evangelism.
Yes, indeed.
Because you're not even, you're just telling your story. Can you tell me, of all of the stories, and they see Jesus, do they describe him the same? Are there specific? Have you heard these stories of like Stephen Music? I mean, he describes him to a T.
Right. I mean, what people describe varies some. I've found by and large that people are overwhelmed. They're so immersed in love in the midst of the experience. Not that Jesus was an afterthought, but they most people will comment about just they feel like they've arrived at where they were supposed to go. It was their, like, the culmination of their life, their destination, all those things just completely saturated with love. And so like they can describe a few things about Jesus, but literally it's more of the completeness, the fullness of the experience. So they're so overwhelmed by that, they almost can't describe some of the things they saw.
Wow. Your journey into that, knowing from where you came, and when I met you, I don't even know that you were in charismatic circles.
No.
Were you?
No.
I mean, we started praying together. God put other people in your life. Before I knew it, you were all messed up. You were just, the Holy Spirit wrecked you. And I love stories like that, because now look, the amount of faith that you have added to this, and you're giving all of those people a vocabulary, those people who it's new to, and they don't know what to do with these experiences. And in the meanwhile, you've got people who didn't even believe there was a heaven or a hell, which, by the way, can we just say, this generation, they have walked down and over into the mudslide, that slippery slope of there is no eternity.
Right.
There is no afterlife at all, therefore I don't need a Savior, and there must not be a devil. Okay, so from there, let me ask you this. How many people do you talk to that have hell visitations versus heavenly visitations?
Probably about 20% of the guests have had some kind of a hell or kind of that in-between experience before they have a heaven experience. People are less likely to want to talk about the hell experiences just because they seem to be a little bit more traumatic.
Really?
And so,
I mean, that makes sense, but I would think that you would want to share it all and save people from going.
Most of the people we've talked to have had some kind of an end point in their experience that it was in heaven. So they might have had a hell experience at first, or kind of a demonic encounter at first, and then they call out to the Lord, and they end up having a heaven experience. So
I am personally very worried about the generation that we're in that has, because now you're each other's enemy, or your race is my enemy, or your gender is my identity, or all of that, the Christianity and the verses you love, that's hate speech. If we take the devil out of the equation, none of us are ever going to get along. We have to blame everything on him. All right, when we come back from the break, we got to talk about your books and your television show, and I got to ask you about all the kids. So come right back after the break. Everybody stay close.
Neuromatics Oil is a family of therapeutic-grade patented oil blends created by nutritionist and author Laura Harris Smith. Invented for her own lifelong journey for neurological health, Quiet Brain now helps those worldwide who suffer from insomnia, migraines, anxiety, seizures, tremors, and more. Quiet Brain contains oils like frankincense, myrrh, lavender, sandalwood, and others. Next, Happy Brain is a bright mood-lifting citrus blend and contains oils like lemon, lime, clementine, spearmint, and more. Users say it combats depression and even aids in weight loss. Next is Sharp Brain, Laura's Focus Blend, also used to improve cognitive memory issues with oils like coffee, cinnamon, vanilla, clove, and others. Each $69.95 bottle is a 10-week supply if used daily, or about $1 a day. And right now, buy 2 bottles and get the third one free, and get a free eye mask using the promo code on your screen at neuromaticsoil.com or at 1-855-784-3827. That's 1-855-QUIET-BRAIN.
I'm naturopathic Dr. Laura Harris Smith, and if you'll give me 10 days, Give It to God and Go to Bed can help you stress less, sleep better, and dream more. There are even links inside to my free 10 Days to Deeper Sleep and Dreams program and 10 Goodnight videos.
Can you close your eyes and just still listen to me?
The whole book takes place in your bedroom, and with chapter titles like The Junk Under Your Bed, The Treasures in Your Bedroom, and The Monsters in Your Closet. Give It to God and Go to Bed helps you learn to rest and hear God speak in dreams. Take back your sleep and dreams, my friend, with Give It to God and Go to Bed.
Welcome back, everybody. You're watching The Three. I'm Laura. I'm here with my good friend, Shaun Tabatt. And so we've talked about the 2 podcasts. We've talked about how you're a big publishing executive now. I want to really just move into what I think is about to become your new wheelhouse, which is television. Tell us about your new television show.
I wanted to do a show that was for me 10 years ago. Like you kind of alluded to this earlier. So I ended up getting thrown into the charismatic publishing world as a guy who went to John Piper's church, married a Baptist girl, grew up Lutheran. So Holy Spirit stuff was not at all my wheelhouse. And my show is called Engaging the Supernatural, and I really just want to have stories or tell stories about how God is moving in signs, wonders, and miracles, and just have conversations, not necessarily to normalize it, but I'm like, what would have helped me find a comfort level to find my path in this world when I was just starting out? So can we have just normal conversations and talk about what God's doing?
Nobody thinks a discussion about, charismatic circles or supernatural miracles is normal.
Right.
They think it's abnormal. When the truth is that we're created by a supernatural God, and I think if we are not experiencing the supernatural, desiring it, wanting something more, I think we're going to have a hole in us because we're created in the image of somebody who is all about that. He wants to show up and be relevant in our lives, and he wants to be working through us in the earth. And I mean, what a joy that we get to partner with him and do these things. So I love the idea of you, in television, you've done the podcast all these years, you've kind of been behind the scenes. What's the greatest challenge of being in television? I know the answer to this question, but I'm curious what your opinion is.
It's like here, it's all the cameras.
Yes.
No, the funniest thing is I have done hundreds, if not thousands of hours of content, a lot of it on Zoom the last few years, and so really just trying to find a comfort level of kind of the things you do to cope with just moving your body and keeping busy. It looks great on Zoom, but you look like a duck from side views on camera. So as I've been watching, and I actually have done all the editing for the first 6 episodes, and just like, okay, not going to do that next time, and this and that. So just really finding a comfort level, and with all the people in the room, like it's when it's you to a webcam doing a podcast, that's easy. But when there's like 10 people in the room, there's a lot going on. So and I'm very shiny object. So
wait, the guy with 10 kids, you're really going to talk about how you can't focus with 10 people in the room? Come on.
Noise canceling headphones.
All right, you got 3 new books coming out. This is back to the topic we were on in segment 2 about NDEs, near-death experience. Like, tell me the books and tell me when they're coming. Are they coming out at once? Like, how are you doing this?
So I've had a bunch of prophetic words that I'm supposed to write books. So I guess God was like, okay, you finally have to take that seriously.
You've been telling me that for years. I'm so glad you're finally doing it.
So we're doing 3 books over the next few months. Okay. The first one's going to be coming out in like a few weeks, so early April. It's called Real Near-Death Experience Stories. And so we actually took transcriptions of our 4 most popular interviews, and shout out to Kathy Lee Gifford for the format I chose. I think her recent book, like the Jesus I Knew or Know, whatever it's called, we just kind of followed the vibe of her books, a little biography of the person, Q&A format of the interview, and then reflections on what was unique or special about their story. And so I share my perspective, Randy Kay shares his perspective, and so we have 2 mini books, although they're like 49,000 words, where it'll just be interviews, and then we have another book coming out in January that'll be kind of chicken soup for the soul style, where there'll be a section that's angel stories, out-of-body experiences, throne room encounters, Jesus encounters, and so it may be some of the people you met in the earlier books. You're just getting snippets of their stories, kind of organized topically. So yeah.
You know, it's been probably, I don't know, for 30 years now that I've seen into the spirit realm. I hadn't studied, in Scripture. I had read stories about seers, in the Old Testament. I had read about, visions and dreams in the New Testament. But when it started happening to me, I didn't tell anybody. I was embarrassed. And then I'll never forget where I was. I was standing playing putt-putt golf with a friend, and she starts describing this book she's reading, This Present Darkness, Frank Peretti, Angels and Demons and all that. And I just froze. And it was almost like I was admitting a sin or a secret or something. I went, I've seen those. And she said, tell me everything. Well, now it happens to me so regularly. I had a guest on today, I'm not going to say which one. I saw an angel over them as I was interviewing them. I didn't tell them afterwards because some people are open to it, some people are not. I knew as soon as I saw that, I have a prayer assignment to pray for this person because I know the influence that he has. I wouldn't be at all surprised if somebody wants to knock the legs out from under that, right? And so I see it as an invitation, don't you? Don't you see that as an invitation? To really just engage with God. He's trying to get our attention in this busy world. And when he opens your eyes in the spirit realm and allows you to look in, you realize we're not the main show down here. We're not the main eternal show. I cannot end this broadcast without talking about Lynette. The woman who really she
puts up with me.
Because she's at home with the 10 kids,
right?
And she is such an amazing woman. But she's a behind-the-scenes kind of gal. What's your favorite thing about Lynette? I hope you're watching. She's going to be embarrassed, like if you ever share this show. But what's your favorite thing about Lynette?
Probably just her ability to run the ship. And we are so opposite of each other. I'm like distracted by everything and going 10 million ways, and she makes everything we do work. Like I couldn't do what I do without what she's able to do. And so just managing the household like she does, like that's her calling. Like she knew she wanted to be a wife and a mother. Like I knew that when we got married, and that's what she's been able to do and be home for all these years. And so if you're gonna have 10 kids, it should be your calling, really, because it's a lot of work. But just probably the greatest thing is, like, I know that was her desire, and we've been able to let her live that out. And so, yeah.
That is really amazing. I love the title of the new book, by the way, Real Near-Death Experiences, as opposed to Fake Near-Death Experiences. I'm telling you, you can tell. You can tell when you're sitting with someone and they've been changed.
Right.
I mean, that happens, you know, as you get to know God, period. You should be able to see a transformation in someone. But it is true, and I'm glad that you're on this course and that someone like you, God is entrusting these people to you to get the word out, because I think it will make believers out of people who do not even believe that there is a God. How do people live without God? I heard someone say, life is hard. I had to say, I said, you know, how do people live without Jesus? I said, life's hard without Jesus. And she said, life's hard with Jesus. Like, what are you talking about? So I just really want to thank you. I've seen the evolution of your career and all of these different mediums, you know, now that you're involved in, and you've kept your center, you've kept your family. I really see God's hand of blessing on your life. And please, don't ever not be my friend. You are one of those guys, I know you're going to be like a tool in my tool belt. I'd be pulling out 10, 20 years from now. I learned this from Shaun. All right, everybody. I am thankful that you were with us today. We'll see you next week in another episode of The Three. Bye-bye for now.